Then we go back to volume, and just whenever you are ready to start, hit unmute, and this should unmute for you.
Should I put this on?
Well, if you're not gonna walk around, then it's fine if you don't. Go right over here.
Oh, right. So I could just leave it
Yeah,
here.
totally up to you.
Yeah. So for the recording, or the live stream, I'm not sure. We're just using this mic here.
Oh, I see. Okay. So then we're not going to use the lavalier.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So
That's
you just want to stay in this area.
Okay. So in that case, we
That's
can
fine.
use both stick mics, right?
Yeah, you can. Yeah.
Good evening, everyone. My name's Andrew Carnier. For those of you who don't know me, I'm a member of the philosophy department here at Trinity, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to the second lecture in this year's Lennox seminar series. The Lennox seminar is an annual event combining a special seminar course on some topic with a series of visits by distinguished guests to Trinity who deliver these public lectures, but also help lead the seminar. When the guests aren't in town, it's my privilege to be teaching the seminar with my colleague in the English department, Dr. Betsy Tontoplafel. And it seems to me that the Lennox seminar is a real highlight of Trinity's calendar. So I'd like to start by just inviting you to join me in thanking the Martha, David, and Bagby Lennox Foundation for making this series possible. An undertaking like this requires a lot of work from a lot of people. So I'd also like to thank Trinity's School of Arts and Humanities, also the Department of English, the Department of Philosophy, for lots of support in various ways. But I'd also like to give special thanks to Soraya Santos Valle, who's the Administrative Assistant for the English Department, and Shirley Durst, the Administrative Assistant for the Philosophy Department, who have done a lot of work and continue to do a lot of work both behind and in front of the scenes for making it possible. Tonight, Dr. John Dyck will be speaking for around 30-40 minutes, followed by a brief Q&A session. I should note that the lecture is being live streamed and recorded, during the Q&A, Dr. Tontoplafel and I will be circulating with mics. If you could ask your questions into the mics, that would be very helpful, but also just to let you know that your voice will be recorded if you ask a question into the mic. I'm sure there'll be more questions than we have time for in the Q&A, so I do encourage you to join us for a reception in the lobby right outside, directly following the Q&A after the lecture. I'd like to invite Trinity student Kelly Adams to introduce Dr. Dyck. Kelly is a junior English and Spanish double major with a minor in history. She's also a keen pianist and a member of the Lennox seminar this semester, and thus, of course, a true Swiftie. So please join me in welcoming Kelly Adams to the stage.
Good evening, everyone. It's my pleasure to introduce Dr. John Dyck this evening. Dr. Dyck received his bachelor's and master's degrees from the University of Manitoba and his Ph.D. from the Graduate Center at the City University of New York. He is currently lecturer in philosophy at Auburn University. Dr. Dyck's work is motivated by the idea that beauty and art help us explain neglected but important aspects of human agency and value. He argues that art and beauty are more plastic than we often realize, and writes on topics as varied as aesthetic obligations, appreciating bad art, the nature of music, and of course, Taylor Swift. Please join me in welcoming Dr. John Dyck to San Antonio.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a real honor to be here, and I'm really excited to be here and to talk about Taylor Swift and to hear what you have to think about this. This is a paper that I spent a lot of time writing and I cared a lot about, but I didn't think anyone would ever want to hear about. So I'm really excited to hear what you all think about it. Yeah. I'm going to try to think about a certain type of song, and I'm going to try to do that by thinking about a particular Taylor Swift song. You probably already know which song that is. The kind of song I want to talk about, oops, it's ruined. The kind of song I want to, the title's a little bit misleading because it suggests that I want to talk about love songs, but as you'll see, I'm interested in songs that are a little bit more broad than just love songs. Although love songs are a very central case. Anyways, here we go. In June 2000, Tim McGraw is the first song, the first piece of music that Taylor Swift released. She released it in June 2006, 4 months before her self-titled album. She released it to country radio. She had written it in her last year of high school with Liz Rose, this Nashville songwriter who was her frequent collaborator. And it's no surprise that she released it to country radio because the song is instantly so country. It's not just the fact that it starts with dobros and fiddles, there's the instrumentation. It's also just this style of storytelling. she tells this like story that's so like direct and earnest, and in a way like this song could only have been written as a country song. It doesn't work later on. The story. She had a summer romance with somebody. Summer's over now, and so is the romance. And she wants this person she was, it seems right to call it a romance because she thinks of it as like more than a fling. She wants the person she had this romance with to think of her fondly, to remember her fondly. So far, so good. What I think is really interesting about this song is the way she says that. The way she talks about that is to talk about a country artist, a famous country artist at the time, Tim McGraw. And with this sort of lightness of touch, sort of demonstrating her like country bona fides, being able to like play this game of country authenticity, she talks about this. Actually, I'm just gonna play some of the music for you here. I assume you've all heard it, but just, to get us back to this place, back to 2006, I'll just play the chorus for you. The song apparently was about a real relationship. She had really had this relationship with this person. And she writes, if you look, you can still find this online in an internet message board where she was writing, what's the Great American Country message board? This fan, Leanne, asks, how do your boyfriends think? And she says, actually, when I wrote Tim McGraw, he was really upset about the breakup until he listened to the song, and he liked the song, and then he didn't feel so bad about the breakup. So anyways, it's about this real person. I want to talk about today the theme of this song, which is the very idea of associating a person with a song. This is what Taylor wants. Taylor wants that her boyfriend, her ex, whenever her ex thinks of Tim McGraw, he hears Tim McGraw on the radio, or it could be anytime he just thinks about Tim McGraw, or anytime he hears a Tim McGraw song, that's not clear, but whatever. Anytime he hears a Tim McGraw song, he thinks of her. And I think, so it's like Tim McGraw brings to mind the idea of Taylor, but then I think it's like there's some, I'll talk about this later, I think maybe there's some mutual reinforcement where there's association between a song and a person, but also between the person and the song. And I want to talk about this kind of thing, associating songs with people. I hope it's like really familiar to you. I hope that you have songs that you associate with people you love now, and people that you used to love, and people who have passed away. We probably all have songs that we associate with different kinds of people. And it's like the song can make the person more important, and the person can make the song more important. It's like a really important... I just put the... I need to remind myself to say it. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to lay out a particular problem, I think, for any way of sort of associating a song with a person? I think there's a particular worry we might have. It's something like, if we love a song just because of its association, then we don't really love the song because it's a good song. But then, so what's the alternative? We just love songs without their association with people? That doesn't seem right either. That's the problem. But before I do that, I want to just say a little bit more about the kind of thing I have in mind. It's a really clunky phrase, like personal songs with personal associations, but I hope the idea is like really, really familiar. We associate songs with people and people with songs. Mostly for us, it's songs with people. Now, one way we can associate a person with a song is because we have a relationship with them, a romantic relationship, and then we go, let's choose a song to be our song. This is a way we might associate a person with a song. But the general thing I want to talk about, associating a person with a song, is bigger than, it includes something like our song, but it's bigger than this. Because it's not just romantic. It's certainly not romantic in the Tim McGraw case, right? So our song is going to be like one example, but not the only case. Does that make sense? So it's not just romantic. It's also like, notice like our song, like, it's like, and the trick, of course, in our song is that their song is not really a song at all. It's the sound of the slamming screen door and talking on the phone and all this stuff. But notice that for our song, at least I think in a healthy romantic relationship, it's like adopted together, So it's not like someone says, this is our song, and then that's their song. It's adopted together. But notice that she's saying, I hope that you think of Tim McGraw. I hope that when you think of Tim McGraw, you think of me. So it's like, it's not really adopted together in the same way. So just, I don't know, a couple like negative conditions on what I mean by associating someone with the song. This one is, I think, maybe the most important. The kinds of associations I'm thinking about here have to be significant or deep for us. I used to work at McDonald's when I was in high school, and I knew this stoner guy, Matt, and Matt would flip burgers, and he would sing a lot of Weird Al songs. So every time I think of Weird Al, I think of Matt, and every time I think of Matt, I think of Weird Al. That's an association. I didn't particularly like Matt. He wasn't like a great guy. It's just that like this association is burned into my brain. But it's, so this is like not the kind of thing I want to care. I'm worried about the deep associations. These are not the kind of cases I'm interested in. That's like an accident. The cases like Tim McGraw is like it's not an accident. It's too significant and it's too deep. One thing I think is super interesting is that the idea of these associating with a song and a person became huge for about, 10 years in country music after Taylor Swift wrote this song. 2 years, it blew up about 2 or 3 years ago. I think this is 2002. 2 songs came out in 2002 called Damn Straight, where people were cursing George Strait because every time they heard George Strait on the radio, it reminded them of their ex-girlfriend. I think this is a kind of like deep, significant personal association, but it's not happy, it's sad. One of my favorite songs, an underrated song is, I know Walker Hayes, the fancy like guy, actually has written some great songs before he got famous. And one of them is this, I love this song. It's called Shut Up, Kenny. It's about how every time he hears Kenny Chesney on the radio, he wants to like throw the radio. It's so good. But I think the very best version of this song is this, I don't know, you guys know this song by Eric Church, Springsteen? It's so good because he doesn't even say which song you're thinking about. This is how the song starts. And then, like, he just has this meditation. It's funny how a melody sounds like a memory. It's so good. But, like, he's talking about personal associations, So I just want to say, like, it's kind of a testament to Taylor Swift's influence in country music that, as far as I can tell, she was the first person to do it, and then it became a big trend within country music. She's in the genre for what, like 5 years? And then she's like, I'm out. And they're like, oh, you've given us a lot here to work with. So the point is that they've got to be deep. And I think the kind of country music songs I talked about involve a kind of depth. The next idea is that the association has to be direct. So what I mean by direct is that it's not like, and again, like this is what I should have put like Taylor Swift, and she's like hoping that this happens, you know? She's like, oh, it'd be so good. She's not hoping that like when her ex thinks about Tim McGraw, then it gets him sad, and every time he's sad, he thinks of Taylor. That would be like an indirect association. That's like, I don't know, it's kind of inferential or something. It involves, at any rate, it involves like one step too many. She just wants him to think about her when he hears Tim McGraw, just because she listened to it and loved it. That's it. That's supposed to be enough, in some sense enough. Does that make sense? Yeah, that's it. So it's supposed to be direct. One more thing I want to say is that I don't think this is like exclusive to songs, that we can associate a person with a song in this kind of way, that a song can become meaningful because we associate them with a song. You might hate someone so much that you want to burn a picture of them. And that involves an association of the person with the picture. But I mean, I think we do this, you certainly could do this with paintings, photographs, it's a little Nickelback callback. And you could do, but I think we do this with movies too. We associate movies with people in a really important and deep way. So, yeah. I mean, yeah. And just one more thing. I didn't say this, but it's like, it's not just romantic. And just like, we have songs that we associate with our siblings and our parents and our grandparents. And, you know, so it's not just romantic. Okay. So I think that's something like the kind of thing I want to talk about. It's really, well, yeah, I'll say that later. So we've got this thing, and they feel like really important to us, the kind of thing that Taylor Swift is describing. And I think there's like a kind of problem that arises. It goes like this. When we're like associating with a person, a song, and then we like the song because of its association, or we dislike the song on its association, are we ignoring the merits of the song? Is it okay to sort of have these effective associations that influence how we think about the songs? You might say, yeah, green light, no problem. We can't help it. We're going to associate people with songs anyways. And why should we stop? Art is for sharing with other people make it important, no problem. But when you think about it a little more, you'll realize there is a problem. These associations can ruin songs for us. That's why so many people are cursing George Strait on country radio these days. And you might say, yeah, art is for sharing. And when I share it with you, I don't want it to be ruined by something that happened to happen to you 5 or 10 years ago. In other words, we miss out on beauty if we do this. And, okay. Okay. Here's what some people have thought is a really important condition on aesthetic response. Does this word mean anything to anybody? Disinterest? Not really? Okay, perfect, great. It refers to impartiality in aesthetic judgment. You should judge the work disinterestedly. Disinterest does not mean uninterest. It does not mean you're bored. It means you're impartial. It means you can judge it objectively for what it is, for what it does to you. And a lot of people have thought that this is really important, like sort of, whatever, people influential in aesthetics, some people influential in aesthetics, not everybody, have thought that this is important for aesthetic judgment. In order to properly appreciate the work, we have to appreciate what it is. If my only basis is that it's just, I don't like this song because it was playing when someone broke up with me, that's not a good basis for rendering a judgment on a song. If the only basis for liking it is that I got a great margarita from Chili's when it came to me, that's not enough. I have to like the song for what it is. So the idea here is that if the beauty of love songs was just based on our sort of personal history, it'd be random, it'd be contingent, it'd be accidental. And there would, like I said last time, there'd be no shame. And I love my line I'm very proud of. I can finally, it's not just in print. I think that beauty is far too important to be waylaid by happenstance. You know what I mean? Here's an example. I love this album. This is like my favorite album of all time. It's so good. I love to share it with people. And if someone was like, I can't do Ray Charles. One time I was driving and I had a scary accident, and so that ruined Ray Charles. I would think, like, that's really too bad. I want you to share this thing with me. But to do that, you have to see what it is, you know? Okay. So, what now? I want to sort of contrast two look, I hope I've motivated the idea that disinterest is important, and I also hope I've motivated to you that there's some kind of problem. I'm going to continue by talking about sort of two extreme reactions you might have to the problem. I think it's probably clear which side I'm leaning towards, but I think there's two important, but just to get these on the table. So first of all, we could have totally art-based care about the song. We love this song or the artwork, and it's just based on the art. It's not based on any personal association. The judgment isn't accepted at all by associations, only by the art. So imagine you had this, you used to date this person, Barb, and whenever you drive around, she'd play the Steve Miller Band, And and it's not that you love the Steve Miller Band because of your relationship. You heard the Steve Miller Band and you were like, that's amazing. I love the Steve Miller Band for what they are. In this case, your love for the Steve Miller Band doesn't rise or fall with how you feel about Barb. You love the Steve Miller Band based on the Steve Miller Band's greatness. So it's sort of like But notice this isn't quite what's happening in Tim McGraw in the song. It's like the love for the song feels like it's somehow connected to the love for the person. So there's something that doesn't seem right about that. On the other hand, imagine you have totally relationship-based care. Your judgment could be based just on the association. So imagine your grandmother, your sweet grandmother, introduced you to the Masterpiece album by John Coltrane, A Love Supreme. And now imagine you love this album, A Love Supreme. You listen to it every week. But why do you love it? You only love it because it reminds you of your grandmother. You don't care about the artistic merits. You don't care about what Coltrane's doing with the saxophone or the composition. You love it, but only because of its association. In this case, it's like the art doesn't matter. The art is just a placeholder or a trinket. Anything can do this job. And, maybe Taylor Swift hopes that her ex will think this way, But I would hope that Taylor Swift is look, this is a good Tim McGraw song, and I hope you see what's good about it. You know what I mean? I hope she hopes that he's going to see what's good about the song, and it's not just based on the relationship. I don't know. Does that sound plausible to you guys? Okay, I hope so. So here's my suggestion. I think that deep cases of loving these songs, the kind of cases that Taylor Swift talks about, the kind of cases that we associate that are important in our lives, I think they're both art-based and relationship-based. But it's not because we sort of add them up and then put them together. We go, well, the aesthetic value of the art is pretty good. Well, it has this personal association too, and the personal association is like icing on the cake. So two great tastes that taste great together, put them together, and it's great work. It's not because we sum them up like that. It's also not because we sort of have a mental toggle between the two, where we go, oh, I can appreciate it I can appreciate it for its art, and oh, I can also appreciate it for its association. That's not it either. Here's the view I'm going to suggest. I think it's always starts with appreciating the art first. Or it's all, let me say something. I don't want to say anything about the temporal sequence in which you said. I mean, the proper cases of deep appreciation are always based on appreciating the art. The idea is that we can appreciate art more deeply when it's applied to somebody. Appreciating the music helps us appreciate the person. And appreciating the person helps us appreciate the music. So I'm going to spell this out for you. There's this idea that, like, some people think art's valuable because it sort of reveals ourselves to us, or it's just an expression of ourself or something. But my colleague Karen Gorodysky thinks that art is important because it's like, it's beautiful. It's there for everyone to behold. And then she says, how does that relate to the fact that we have different ways? How does that relate to the fact that art can have profound effects on ourselves? And here's what this might be a little too long, but she goes like, many of our appreciative aesthetic engagements are a constitutive, a central aspect of our diverse personalities. But that's not just because they reflect our own sort of values. It's because we're like glomming onto the beauty that's found there in the work. They're responsive to what's valuable through our own first personal authority, through our manner of appreciatively engaging with them. We have different ways of appreciating with the beautiful that bring out our personalities. So, I don't know, maybe that was a little too in the weeds on this stuff, but basically when we appreciate a song that a loved one loves, we can see the way in which they grasp beauty. To see how this works. Taylor doesn't love this song for no reason. Actually, I always thought this song was about the Tim McGraw song, Just to See a Smile. You know this? It's a great, very sort of saccharine country song. But it's actually about this other do-it-your-own-way kind of guy. It's called Can't Tell Me Nothing. Anyways, whatever. So Taylor doesn't love this song for no reason. She sees what makes this song great. We could say she's sensitive to its goodness. We could say, like, she's the kind of person who's responsive to the kind of thing it's putting out there. That's why she cares that this song prompts a memory in him about her. It's not any song that she liked. Maybe it could be a couple others. But it's important because this song says something about her sensibility, her sense of taste. So here's the suggestion. I'm trying to keep saying, I feel like, okay, a song's meaningfulness hinges on what it says, like how it's meaningful, how we care about it, how we love it. That hinges on what it's saying artistically in the first place. We have to begin there. The art comes first. First, we begin with loving the art. And I think there are two kinds of ways that this can work itself out. Sometimes there are things like we adopt a song together, like our song, and that provokes a sort of shared intimacy because we have the same sensibility, right? But I think there's another way that it can work. In the Tim McGraw case, in their song, in something where the personal association is more one-sided, when you hear the song, you think of them. In that sense, you get their sensibility better. I guess I'll tell this story really fast. One of my brothers lives in Edmonton, Alberta, way up in Canada. I live in Alabama. We live on opposite sides of the continents. This song from Rostam, who used to be a part of Vampire Weekend, came out like 3 or 4 years ago. And we shared it sort of online, and we talked about how great this song was. This song is just about the kind of intimacy that we can squeeze into awkward places, like the back of a cab. anyways, a couple summers ago, I was up visiting my brother. And we've been out with his friends, out at the bars, having fun. We're back there, and it's Canada, and it's 4 a.m. And the sun's coming up, and all our energy is depleted. And he just puts on this song, and he puts his arm around me. And that means a lot, because it's like the understanding that we both have the sensibility to receive what this song is offering, and also that he knew that we both cram our love for each other in these weird, awkward places. The fact that, like, yeah, this sort of shared idea. So this is an example of something that's like our song, but not romantically. Aristotle has this idea that true friendship is based on character. In particular, it's based on virtuous character. So there's this like moral dimension to character. I mean, it's a kind of mirroring, right? It's like you have good character and you see that in someone else. But it's not because it's a reflection of yourself. It's because it's virtue and you care about that. What I'm suggesting is that maybe there's an aesthetic dimension, too, to friendship. That not only is it important to mirror virtue in someone else, but it's also important, this shared mirroring of like an aesthetic sensibility. But let me talk about the other kind. So that's sort of like our song, something you can share, and I'm trying to explain how it starts, it has to start with appreciating the song, and then we can recognize our shared love for this thing, this aesthetic thing. But let's go to the Tim McGraw case where, Jason Kelsey is supposed to appreciate the song. The idea is that, I've talked about this idea that once we appreciate the song, we can start to appreciate the person because, we can understand what they're going in for. We can see how their sensibility works, the kinds of things they're open to, the kinds of things they're receptive to. But notice that once you appreciate the person more, you can appreciate the song better too. Once you see the kind of person that is receptive to that kind of beauty, the more you see it as like a real kind of beauty, even if it's something like Tim McGraw. Oh, wow. I'm going to say two more things to close. I hope I've convinced you that there's let me start something slightly different. No, yeah. I hope I've convinced you that, when the associations of a song go deep and when they're real, they start with hearing the song for what it is. It's a meaningless association if it doesn't begin with the artwork or the song. And I hope you've seen that, through, songs sort of aren't plopped out into the art world with no relationship to our daily lives. They wriggle their way into all these corners of what we care about. And the more you can see what an artwork is doing, the more you can see how its aesthetic power works itself out in the way people respond to it. But that means being open to seeing how people are receptive to beauty, to the different ways that people are receptive to beauty. It doesn't mean that you have to, it doesn't seem to me that you have to be receptive to beauty in that way. I certainly wouldn't expect that everyone in this room is going to start loving Tim McGraw. But it does mean that it's a crucial step in appreciating another person. So I think it's really shocking. It's that there's so little philosophical work done on love songs. The most common kind of song is a love song. And love songs occupy so much of what we care about. And I just want to close by noticing that it seems really important that love songs have this kind of emptiness to them. They're just like shells in a way that we fill out with our emotions by singing them to people, by dancing to them at weddings, by making memories with them. In a way, we sort of we stuff ourselves into the pronouns, you and I, and then we're off to the races. But all that shouldn't, that's an important thing about the way love songs work, is by exploiting our subjectivity. But I also think it's like there are artistic values in these songs precisely for how they can do this. I think about a song like, you know, the Manhattan's Shining Star. It's like that is a song that, despite a kind of emptiness, has a kind of fullness. I don't know, maybe that's too vague. But I hope it's clear that even despite that kind of emptiness, there's still like can be an aesthetic richness in love songs. So yeah, I think that's all I have to say. Thanks for listening.
Thanks, Dr. Dyck. And yes, we have 10 or 15 minutes for discussion in here, and Dr. Tonti Plathel and I will be wandering around with mics, so just put up your hands and we'll try to get to as many people as we can.
Hi. You said on the last slide that there's a surprising lack of philosophical study of love songs. Why do you think that is?
Well, that's a really good question. I'd be curious if you all have any thoughts. For one thing, philosophers tend, just because of philosophical tradition, and myself included, we tend to analyze. There's definitely a more historical connection in philosophy between sort of high art and philosophical analysis of that art. You know, so then there's a tendency to analyze sort of whatever's the finest example. I don't know, but I wonder, there are lots of things that escape philosophical analysis, like work songs or religious songs. Religious songs are kind of love song, most of them. Maybe, I don't know, maybe there's a kind of, maybe I'm sort of being a little bit one-sided here, but maybe there's a little bit of a worry that they're like scary to think about in a way, because because we do have these personal connections, and they can make us cry and they can make us happy, and they're like scary things to think about. That's like my hunch, but I don't really have anything to back it up. That's a really good question.
Thanks. I'm trying to find ways to challenge the idea that the art has to come first.
Nice.
Two ideas to try to push back on that. So one direction I thought of challenging that is, I know you know my dear friend Ryan Davis. He loves Taylor Swift. I love hearing Ryan explain why he loves Taylor Swift. I do not myself. I'm so sorry. This is a bomb or this is I'm not a fan of Taylor Swift. But I watched the Americana documentary because Ryan gave like a very compelling explanation of why he loves it so much. And as I'm watching it, I'm like hating it. And I was like, wait, but what if I switch frames? I love Ryan Davis. And I love hearing Ryan Davis explain. I'm just going to watch this as a frame through which to understand my dear friend Ryan Davis better.
Nice.
And I think it made me closer to him. I enjoyed the work more. And I think I understood it and cared about it for his sake. I do not care about the work. I probably don't understand it terribly well for its own sake, but I think that's a worthy way of engaging with him and with the work of art.
Yeah.
So that's possibility one. And then on the emptiness of love song, I was thinking, like, what if we thought not only that that's the proposal one is like that could be a possible and valuable way of engaging with art. Proposal two is like, what if love songs just don't have a lot of artistic merit at all, and they're just an empty thing in which we can have a relationship, like a Ferris wheel. Ferris wheel is not a work of art. It's an empty, romantic location in which we can all go sit next to one person and go up really high and then make out and then come back down. What if a love song is just an empty location where we make out?
Nice. Those are, thank you. That's, I feel like it relates to this question about like, okay. Let me start with the second one. So it's like, love songs are just kind of playgrounds for us to, like, think about this idea that the aesthetic, I think about this idea that the aesthetic realm is, a disinterested realm. It's importantly not something in which we engage with for practical purposes. It's something we engage, according to people like Kant, it's something that we only engage with sort of for appreciation, for its own sake, not for some further goal we have in mind. And not merely because it sort of immediately pleases us. There has to be some kind of judgment involved. Considerations like that have led people to think that's like, you can't do stuff with. Art isn't for doing stuff with. So like that is like, this idea that love songs could be something for doing stuff with this is a way of like, not quite what you said, but it's a way of flesh out this idea that love songs couldn't be worthy of artistic evaluation. I don't know, part of me just wants to be like, but look at all these great love songs and look how we use them. And then, but part of me too wants to say that whatever we say about love songs here, we're probably going to say something similar about good political art. Where like good political art will in the end be something that you could do stuff with in a certain kind of way. Now, I say this, I'm very skeptical about political values in arts. Like, you don't really need the art, just do the politics. Let me say one other thing, though. An aesthetic value doesn't sort of take away practical values. It's not like it's divorced from all elements of our lives. It still seeps into the way we think about the world, the way we think about our friends' appreciation for something. And it affects in deep ways these like cognitive stuff that we do. So I want to try to make more room for this idea that like art can seep into our lives. Okay, here's another thing. Look, a lot of love songs are Paul McCartney, silly little love songs, and they're stupid, and they're not really beautiful. But some songs, I would hope, are beautiful, and it is possible to do, and what it looks like to appreciate them will surely have to mean, like, yeah, so I'm not trying to go whole hog on, like, all love songs, but I do. Yeah. That's, like, gesturing towards an answer. That's all I'm going to do on that one. Because also this is a super hard problem, and I'm trying to think about sorry, I'm answering too long, but okay, so you're saying, I said art has to go first, but you're saying, wait, seems like sometimes the person can come first. I'm appreciating the song to understand, I'm just trying to understand my friend, and that's how I appreciate it. One thought I have is like, that might not be a deep personal association of the kind I have in mind. It's like Tim McGraw isn't like, it's not like, oh, I hope you enjoy. Think of me because you're like, I wonder how can I get inside Taylor? It's like, no, it's like play some deeper role than that, you know. And then the second thing I would want to say is something like this. It's like to switch that frame or something. You still are like trying to get at the thing for what it is, and that's what I'm talking about. It's not like there might be several ways in, but it's not like you're trying to divorce it from everything else. You could still be like, okay, what is this thing, and who's he like that he's trying to get at this thing? So, yeah, here the guiding motivation could surely be someone else. But I guess I just want to say it always requires you to like think about what the art is, what's good about the art. Thanks. That's awesome.
Thanks for talking about these associations and the benefits of them. But let's say you have a friend who is interested in this, and you've convinced them of these benefits. They don't feel particularly inclined. These associations they don't have the sort of personality where these associations naturally to them. Do you have something to say to them?
Nice.
Is hope lost for them?
Somewhat, sorry.
Is hope lost for them? How do they shift their position towards that sort of association?
That's really good. Thanks. I I guess one thing is I feel like there's a lot of aesthetic experiences that some of us can have and others of us can't. There's a lot of aesthetic experiences that I will never get to have. I feel like I don't get a lot of stuff in visual art. It's like I'm just not getting it. And I surely wouldn't have, I don't want to say that in order to love someone, you have to have a song about them. You know, that would be pretty extreme. Like, and I wouldn't want to say that you have a song, you know, look, some people are just sort of like immune to music, I think. It's in my experience. Some people just don't feel much. The way I don't feel much around vision. Well, I shouldn't say this too loud. But, you know, there's just some things that don't do it for me, you know? And so I wouldn't want to, I think that what I wanted to just do is like think about this problem for that kind of way. I mean, but also like, I wonder, you're like, I guess you're getting at this, like, I guess there's this question too about, could there be someone such that they don't make personal associations with any art and any person? It does seem possible to me. I'm curious what you guys think. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe just are there? You know, I don't. My first inclination with it is that it isn't like a fixed, finite thing. Like if somebody doesn't take these positions, then they never can and they'll never be able to. That it's almost like a muscle that people can practice and they can develop, and that somewhat comes with time. But how do you be intentional about developing that sort of transition?
Oh, good. Okay, so how could you generate this kind of? Oh, nice. Oh, good. So imagine it's not that they're incapable. Although I want to be clear, I think some people just can't do this. But suppose it takes work. How would you like cultivate that impulse? Yeah. Okay. Good. Sorry, I missed that. By hanging out with your friends and singing songs with them. No, I don't know. Karaoke. I don't know. Listening to the radio. But again, it's not just mere exposure to art, right? It's really important that it's the right kind of thing. Maybe I don't know. You tell me if you think otherwise. But maybe something is like asking your friends like what's like moving them these days, you know, like what they're listening to. I feel like we can get in this pattern of not asking people these questions, but it's some of the best conversations you can have with people is to like get them to explain why they love a thing and hear why they love a thing. And that's the kind of thing where you can like appreciate the person and the thing, you know? I don't know, maybe that's one way of just like, which is also interesting because then it's related to like having certain kinds of conversations with friends, as Sally Rooney would say. You know? Yeah, cool. Thank you. That's great.
Hey, thanks for doing this. And my question is, what's your thoughts on like bilingual artists or like love songs that cross cultural lines? Like I'm thinking like Romeo Santos, Mark Anthony, where you know there's a Latin culture and you definitely see kind of the melodramatic in the music and the songs versus like an American love song, which is just totally different, but there is, you know, commonality amongst the two.
Yeah, that's really good. Oh man, it's almost like different people, different traditions of art have different, like, grow different ruts for like emotional responses. And then it's like, I mean, there's like so many questions that this makes me think of, you know. But like, one is just that certain kinds of expression might be more easily available to some people than to others, you know. Like especially for people who are like can read more than one, you know, cultural expression. So that's like super interesting, and you can think about like code switching or something there too. But also, like, it also speaks to the role that culture has in, like, it's almost like there's the culture stuff, and then, like, this tradition of music, and then it's like getting someone's sensibility within the it's not enough to be like, oh, they're in this culture. It's not enough to be like, oh, Taylor Swift likes country music. It's like, oh, she likes this Tim McGraw song. So it's almost like one exercise is like, there's the culture, and then there's locating this person's particular sensibility within that culture. Does that make sense? Like, yeah. Thank you.
What do you think about the deep grief that comes from these emotional connections that we make with these songs? And you get grief from not only the people that you associate it with, but the artists themselves, if they were to die. And just how does that factor into your philosophy on it?
Yeah, good, thanks. So I think there's a phenomenon which is like you associate a song with a person. I mean, we could just associate a song with a person, but not because that person loved the song. It's like, you know, that Chris Stapleton song, Maggie's song, makes me think of my dog. And then I think about she's going to die one day. But it's not that my dog loves the song, right? So, so one thing is like maybe that's operating at a slightly different register there, you know? Where like it's important that like she likes the song. Yeah, but that's just some of the cases you're talking. Like I just think that's an interesting, you know, way. But it still seems like a really deep connection. Okay, so there's that. And you might think like there's probably a lot to say about that connection. That I just was like leaving out this class of important songs with personal connection. Okay, but then you were talking like, you know, an artist. Do you have an example? You don't have to, but.
My grandma got really, really, really upset when Elvis Presley died. So
Nice.
I don't know, like, how those parasocial relationships work.
Oh, yeah, good. Okay, yes, thank you. Yeah, in that case, maybe it's something like, I feel like it's got to be part of the same family. Because we like, in the Tim McGraw case, it's like he likes Tim McGraw because it says something about her sensibility that she can receive this. But then think about, let's just suppose for a minute that like these artists are our friends. And now it's not like they just have the sensibility to receive this, they have the sensibility to make this. And because they make it, it affects us, and we have the sensibility to receive it. Right? So it's like that's doing a lot of work there. So maybe it's almost like inverted or something, right? It's like, you know, it almost doesn't matter if we treat them too much like friends. It's like their art has a huge influence upon us because it affects our sensibility. They found a way to give words for things we couldn't find words for, or say things in a way we couldn't say things in that way. And then it should be no surprise that like it's like losing a tone you had. It's losing a language that you had. Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
Okay, hi. So you talk about the reciprocal relationship between appreciating a song and appreciating a person. And then you also talked about how once we make that association, we kind of increase their like sensibility. Do you think there could possibly be a reciprocal relationship between their sensibility and our sensibility? If so, how would that like affect our associations that we make between songs and people?
Okay, good. Could you just give a quick example?
So, okay.
Not to put you on the spot.
Yeah, no, you're good.
You don't have to. You don't have to.
I guess just like, I can't think of like song names right now, but say like we think of a song and we further realize certain qualities like about a person that maybe we didn't realize before hearing the song? Do you think that could possibly affect like our own sensibility? And if so, like how does that affect like the associations between a song and a person?
Is it sort of like we discover something about a person by sort of looking at their Spotify, as it were?
Yeah. Kind of,
Yeah, good. Nice. I went a couple months ago. I went to a Creed concert in Atlanta, and I'm not a big Creed head, but I was like, "Whoa, this is quite a fan base." Lots of blacks, you know, like we're wearing lots of black clothing, you know, it's like suburban goth or something. It's so, and I was like, oh, I understand all these people better now. Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I mean, I feel like you're also drawing attention to the fact that we might learn something about them that's not very savory, that's not very good. Or maybe I'm just thinking too much about Creed. But also notice that attitude doesn't quite feel like the aesthetic attitude of like the deep personal association. It's not like thinking about relating to your grandma and your grandma to Elvis or something. I know that's not the kind of case you're talking about, but like it's something different than that, right? It's more like investigative. It's more like epistemic. You're like trying to find something out, and you're like, oh, what does this say about this person? Which I do. I feel like if I like find, you know, I really hate this person, and then I'm like, I know that they like this artist, and I go, oh, let's listen to this artist. That's a kind of personal association, but it's like it lacks a sort of, the depth maybe in the good kind of cases. Yeah.
I'm afraid I've been so engrossed in the conversation that I've been ignoring my own timetable. I'm supposed to be the timekeeper. So I do hope this won't be the end of the conversation, that you will join us and Dr. Dyck out in the lobby for the reception right now and ask all of your questions there. But for now, let's end the official part of the program and just thank Dr. Dyck once more.
Thanks.
So yeah, that's good. We'll just shut this down.